This video is about legal forms and checklists, why you might use them, and where you can find them. Perhaps you've heard the poem, "For want of a nail, the horse was lost. For want of a horse, the rider was lost. For want of a rider, the battle was lost. For want of a battle, the kingdom was lost. And all for the want of a horseshoe nail." Law is a detail profession, and it's a lot of work paying attention to all those little details that are necessary to achieve the ultimate outcome your client desires. But it's a lot of work keeping track of all those little nails. Lawyers, whether they are in a transactional practice or litigation, create a lot of written documents. The work you do as a lawyer involves paying close attention to your choice of language and making sure everything that needs to be there is included. When you have to write something, why start with a blank computer screen? Why not take advantage of the wisdom of past lawyers and build on what they have done? Don't reinvent the wheel. Start with something that has worked in similar situations. And then customize it to meet the particular needs of your client. The first place to look for forms and examples is in your office content management system. Most large legal practices, government and private, have collections of the work they have already done. These documents have the advantage of already being in the preferred style of your office. If you don't have office files to turn to, don't despair. There are many different places that you can find forms and examples to help your drafting of pleadings as well as documents of all kinds. There are specific books that include nothing but forms, sometimes with annotations. There are databases on a variety of platforms that have different forms in them, some of which we'll take a look at in a minute. Very often, secondary sources will include forms either within the text itself or as exhibits at the end. Any document that another lawyer has drafted can serve as a model to you, so court dockets and SEC filings can be great sources of inspiration in helping you draft your own pleadings and documents. Let's talk first about form books. There are lots of different kinds of form books. There are encyclopedic sets of forms, like American Jurisprudence legal forms and AmJur pleadings and practice forms, pictured on the slide. And there are form books for specific topics and jurisdictions. Also, many books written for practitioners contain forms in them, even if the book itself is not a form book per se. One way to look for forms is to include the word forms in your catalog search, since those works which include forms usually have a note to that effect in their catalog records. Remember that our catalog provides references to books available online as well as in print, so you can look for electronic form books through our catalog as well as print ones. And you can also go straight to your favorite online platform. There are a number of different places you could look for forms on Westlaw Next. Secondary sources often have forms. One of the best tools for finding forms on Westlaw Next is the Form Finder. Form Finder is organized by state, by topic, and also by publication. You can search the forms database or browse by individual publication. By selecting a state like Massachusetts, we can now search all Massachusetts forms, limit our search by topic, or select a particular publication. Let's look at legal forms, the legal forms volume of the Mass Practice series. On the left is an expandable table of contents for this book. We can search the whole book or individual chapters, or if we don't know the words to look for, we can expand the book outline and select sections of the book to read. Another place to find forms on Westlaw is sample agreements. These are actual agreements that people have entered into. And Westlaw now provides access to the resources of Practical Law Company. In Practical Law Company, you can run a global search or look at materials by practice area, resource type, or jurisdiction, state or national. Under resource types, we see practice notes, standard documents, standard clauses, and checklists among our choices. As an example, I opened standard clauses, chose real estate as a topic, and spotted one called boilerplate clauses, which caught my eye. Notice the annotations. There are notes integrated into this document that will help explain the significance of these clauses and help us to decide whether or not these would be useful additions to a document being drafted. In addition to standard documents and clauses, there are a series of checklists to help keep track of all the details. These tend to be authored by leading practitioners within the field with the editorial assistance of the Practical Law Corporation. On Lexus, the best place to look for forms is to select something called Lexus Practice Advisor. To get there, you need to select the little downward-facing caret sign next to the words Lexus Advanced Research at the top of the page and then select Lexus Practice Advisor from the pull-down menu. Lexus Practice Advisor is designed for attorneys in transactional practices and is organized according to practice area. My default practice area is intellectual property, but we can choose something else by clicking on the words practice area. Let's choose real estate today. There's a list of topics on the left. Let's choose retail leasing letter of intent. And here on Lexus Advance, we start in the snapshot view. Here in Practice Advisor, we start in the snapshot view like in Lexus Advance. And it begins with an overview. And here's the short form of a letter of intent so you could see what that form looks like. There are places to fill in the names and addresses and amounts, as well as a link on the right to drafting notes and alternative clauses. Moving on to Bloomberg Law, one of the best places to find samples and examples for drafting is by selecting Dealmaker Documents. You can search through whole documents or individual clauses to find useful language that you can incorporate in your drafting. The last resource we're going to look at in this video is Practical Law Institute Discover Plus. This is accessed through the alphabetical list of databases. You can search books, forms, transcripts, or all content. Or you can browse, filtering by format, date, and practice area. This was a browse filtered by format of forms, form type clauses, and then finally for wills and trusts. The download screen tells about the form and where it came from. Perhaps you might want to look at the book this form came from to get more information on this topic. The form is downloaded as a PDF, an RFT, so you can edit it. But remember that these forms are only a starting point, a defense against blank computer screen. Your clients are counting on you to apply your legal expertise to make sure that the documents you ultimately produce are tailored to their individual needs. You may need to consult a number of sources to find all the provisions to use as starting points, especially in complex situations. The form book is a tool to be used by, not a replacement for, a lawyer.